Hello, hello, hello. My name is Naomi. I know it's been a while since we have last seen each other or we have last done a video, but we're here back with another wonderful program. And I'm not by myself, I'm with a wonderful special guest. You'll see him very, very soon. And we are here on behalf of Protect Project. The show is called Empower Luton. Empower Luton is a brand new show that is here to share wonderful topics such as money management, generational wealth, and how we can help you and support you, especially during this financial crisis. And as I mentioned beforehand, I am not by myself. I'm with a special guest, which I will allow him to introduce himself, and you'll get to know a bit about him before we jump right into the show.
Hello, everyone. I'm Grafton Barbour, ex-banker, business owner in the finance world. And I'm here just with Naomi today to help people with their sort of financial education, getting through this tumultuous time, as we can say, and try and not just survive, but make it.
Thank you so much, Grafton. I like what
You're
you
welcome.
just said. It's not just to survive, but to make it. This is one of the key things that we really want to share with all of our guests who are listening to us, who are watching to us. It's not just about surviving, but also how to make it. And we want to give you effective tools, tips that will ensure that you can pass this on also onto other generations as well, because we're also here to talk about generational wealth, and we want to see or want to know how we can impact the upcoming generation, the current generation, and the generation to come as well. So today's topic is going to be about basic money management. Basic money management, because on our previous beforehand, when we did a little video that was on our platforms such as TikTok and also on YouTube, we just shared a few random topics in regards to money management. We asked people questions in terms of if you need help with managing your finances. So today we're going to start off with the groundwork about basic money management. And I'm going to ask Grafton, because I know that he is very skilled and talented and gifted in this area, and we really want to listen to his wisdom and understanding in regards to this topic. And first of all, we want to know about the importance of budgeting. Right now, we're in we will say, the new school year, especially for parents who are listening to us, who are watching us. And we've got the school uniforms. We've seen on the news that now the average school uniform per child is costing £100 nearly per child. Maybe a bit more, especially those who are in secondary school. Some parents have spent nearly £300 just for their school uniform, the bags, the shoes. In terms of budgeting, what is the importance of budgeting, especially within this generation society, with all that's happening around with the current financial crisis?
Budgeting, I would say, is mega important. Even successful businesses, they budget.
Wow.
And they're the ones who are making profit.
Yeah.
So if they can do that and they're already successful, then why can't the ordinary man, woman do it?
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of looking to see what you want. Or let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
What you need versus what you want.
Yeah.
Compared to what you have coming in. So budgeting is really determining what is going to go out based on what you have coming in.
Yeah.
So you can have surplus.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's what is so funny is that a lot of people spend time planning for Christmas, planning for holidays, but they don't really plan their finance, their everyday finance.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people who don't budget, there's always more month at the end of the money than money at the end of the month.
Wow. So there's always more months at the end of the money instead of more money at the end of the month.
Because they run out.
Because they didn't budget properly. Because they didn't budget properly. So how does one person start off by setting a budget? I know right now on social media, there's various people who share advice and tips on, for example, TikTok. This is one of the social media platforms that are trending right now. And various people, they'll have like a certain they'll have like a money box or envelopes where they'll say they'll put their rents in a month in advance, or an emergency fund, or the electricity bill. But maybe someone is like, I can't do that, right? I can't be disciplined.
Creating budget is down to planning.
Wow.
Yeah, it is down to planning. That's the basic, simple crux of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can plan everything from the meals you're having this week to um, the clothes you're going to buy for the kids,
For the kids.
every single thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't make a budget because they don't plan. Yeah. If, for instance, you don't know what you're going to eat today,
Yes.
you're more likely going to probably go out and buy takeaway.
By takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The people who are very astute, they plan their food for the whole week. It could be a different meal every day, or they can cook one big meal on a Sunday, or 2, 3 meals, and then freeze it.
Yeah.
So when they come home from work, school, whatever, they just take some out of the freezer and heat it. But everything is all about planning.
It's about planning.
Same thing with if you have to go and do your shopping. Yeah. If you were to go and do your shopping, you make a list of what you need.
Yeah.
Not just what you want, what you need. So, okay, for this week, we're having X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So I'm purchasing X, Y, Z for this week. Yeah. That is the best way of doing it, because you probably would have noticed it. You've gone to the supermarket and you start going up and down the aisle. And before you know what happened, every aisle you pick up 2 or 3 things that you didn't plan to buy.
Yes.
And that £50 that you had planned to spend is now £80 by the time you finish, etc. Yeah. For somebody who's on a limited budget, that extra £30 eating into next week's money.
Yeah.
And if you keep doing that, before you know what happened, it eats into everything. And that's why it says you run out of money before the end of the month.
Before the end of the month.
Yeah. So it's all about planning, sitting down and planning. This is it. If you got kids going to school, you buy a decent pair of shoes for them, or you buy 2 pairs of shoes and you rotate it.
That's good. That's a good tip.
So it doesn't get worn down.
Yeah.
If it's somebody, let's say you have a boy and he's kicking everything that he sees, then you might have to buy a more sturdy, expensive shoes than one of the cheap ones, because that cheap one is going to be finished within a month, whereas the sturdy one will probably last you 6 months.
Last you 6 months.
All these little things is what you can do, but it's all about planning.
In terms of planning, maybe there's someone that is going to watch us right now or listen onto us, and they're thinking, do I have to have an Excel spreadsheet in terms of planning? Can I use a notebook? Can I use my phone? What are the tips that are very easy? Because coming from, let's just say, for example, someone that is not as disciplined in terms of sticking to a budget. For example, they set up their weekly budget that they said, okay, they set £30 aside maybe for any other expenses, and then they've put £50 set aside to do shopping. They've put £30 set aside for petrol or fuel, or maybe they've put another £20 to the side for their lunch at work, for those who don't work at home. Do they need to have an Excel spreadsheet? Is it something that they can probably write down, noted somewhere at home that they need to tick off? What are the tips that could help?
They don't need to have an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, you can use a small handheld diary, and each day you put in, what you're going to spend, etc., etc. For those people who are organized, a spreadsheet is good. For those people who are super organized, they have an app on their phone.
Yes.
And, they just scan everything or put in everything, because there are quite a few apps out there that can help you to budget.
Yeah. But
the basic simple one is a notepad. Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about the envelopes. That's what our foreparents used to use. They would put aside, this is for meat in the market, this is for vegetable, and that was it. And one of the key things why they were able to sort of create a little bit of generational wealth for us is when that envelope was finished, that was it.
That was it.
So they learned to manage that envelope. So at first, I'm sure if they put something aside for a week and they used it up by Thursday, they know, oh, Friday, Saturday, I've got to sort of do without.
Yeah.
Until they start realizing, okay, if I use less on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I have enough for Thursday, Friday.
Friday.
So that is the mindset. You have to train yourself to understand, okay, I'm spending £10 a day. So that's it, £50. in that envelope for the week,
Mm.
and you make sure you get to Friday
You get to Friday
for the last £10.
for the last £10.
So if you lost that discipline on Wednesday, as I mentioned, and you went out and buy a takeaway or two,
Yeah.
you've used Thursday and Friday's money.
Mm.
Means you got to do without lunch or whatever, and that's drastic.
That's
For,
true. Yeah.
but it teaches you that. And I mean, I know that for a fact. Like when my son went off to uni, in his sort of first month, he blew the money that was sent to him.
Yeah.
You know, and he blew it before the end of the month,
Mm-hmm.
and he had 1 week left, and he phoned up and asked for money. I said, "Well, we give you enough to that."
Yeah.
And I says, "No, I'm not sending you any money till the end of the week. Live on whatever little you had." So I
Yeah.
think for that week he ate beans and toast, but he spent it indiscriminately. He went and bought new expensive trainers and this
Yeah.
and that and things.
Mm-hmm.
And he did 4 years of uni after that because he did his undergraduate and his master's.
Yeah.
He never made that mistake again
Good. Mm.
because he learned the hard
You
way,
learned the hard way.
about wasting money, especially when you're at uni. And anybody who's at uni would know how crucial managing your money is.
Yes.
Yeah. But then again, it's down to us as parents or the elder person, whoever is in charge of that person, to sort of teach them. And sometimes, as I say, you got to use tough love.
You got to use tough love.
Yeah, but he did learn.
He did learn. I'm sure he did. I mean, especially for those who are in university right now, those who are going and those who are currently at university. I know their student finance very soon is going to hit. When you receive that notification, when you receive all the zeros, you're like, oh, this is amazing. But what tip or advice would you share to an undergraduate student right now, or maybe a postgrad student, in terms of managing their finances at university, whether they're living at home with their parents or whether they are living at the accommodation? What advice would you share onto them?
And I appreciate with student, it is not as simple as it might sound, because you have students whose parents have different level of income.
Yeah.
So they might be in a dorm with somebody who's rich and probably get £500 every week to spend. And to them, it's not an issue. And then you got another one who's £500 for the whole month.
For the whole month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the first things I would say, if you're a student, don't watch what the other student is doing with their money.
That's key.
That is so key.
That's key.
Because you may or may not know their situation, but don't watch what they're doing. Otherwise, you will have to end up either borrowing money from them, begging them, which isn't right.
Isn't right.
Yeah. So again, just as a student, generally you have to plan your study, because you have your classes and then you have your coursework that you have to done.
Yeah.
And everything has to be done in time. If you have to write a 5,000-word essay,
Yeah.
it's unlikely that you're going to sit down one day and write all 500 words.
No.
You'll probably spread it over 5 days,
Yes.
1,000 words.
1,000 words. Yeah.
And it's the same concept when it comes to finance. Just as you plan that essay so it's done properly, so you don't have to rush it. Same thing with finance.
With the finance.
You look at the money that you got from your parents or your student finance, etc. You see how long it has to stretch over, and then you decide, okay, once a week, I'm going to go down to all the little, whoever the shop nearby there, and you buy that. And you try and avoid going to the corner shop, because the corner shop stuff are going to be twice what it is at the big supermarkets.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So that's one of the things you can use. As a student as well, I would say there was a lot of stuff out there. Like, for instance, earlier someone and I were talking about where you can sort of get food at a discounted price at the end of the day, rather than they throwing it away.
Yeah.
Look for all those opportunities, because you can go down to a lot of the supermarkets and get things like your vegetable like half an hour before they close, because they were going to throw them away, for a fraction of the price, and other bits and pieces like that. So all these sort of things you have to look at if you're a student, because one, you don't want to come out with a lot of debt. Student finance is good enough, but you don't want to have to take a credit card and be in debt, or every minute be phoning mom and dad, etc., etc., and things like that. So those are some of the simple things you can do as a student. But it's all, again, planning.
Planning.
Just as you plan your coursework, plan your finance.
Just as you plan your coursework, plan your finance. I like that. I'm going to pass this on to a few people that I know have started off university. Just as you're planning your coursework, also plan your finance, because you don't want to get into just habits of calling a parent, a big sister, a big brother, or even a friend. That has happened to a few times that I know personally, a few people, and it's a very difficult situation, especially if you've got the rent that's due, and you have a deadline, and it's a large sum of amount that someone has to give to you straight away, and maybe the person doesn't have that amount to give to you straight away, or maybe they do but they don't know when you're going to give it back to them. But in terms of debt, this is a thing that I wanted us to discuss. What is the difference between good debt and bad debt? What is the difference between good debt and bad debt? So good debts can be, for instance, you know that you're going to pay it off within a certain amount of time, where you know, okay, I know I've got a debt for this, but I know that by the 10th I should pay it off. Whereas bad debt, is it in terms of habits that a person has? Is it a constant thing that someone is
Not
always
really. I
putting
mean,
themselves in bad debt?
from a finance point of view and a financial education point of view,
Yeah.
we class bad debt as a debt that is costing you, and a good debt is something that is adding value to you.
Okay.
By that I mean, okay, I can give you 50 grand now,
Yeah.
you know, and you can take it and go and buy a flash car. You don't work far from home, but you just buy a flash car because you know you went and buy a 45k BMW Mercedes.
Yes.
The insurance is going to cost you high. The tires are going to use a lot of petrol. It's just there. It depreciates because one, it's not a classic car and it depreciates. But you just wanted it. But every month, let's say it's a loan of 50 grand a year. Every month you're probably paying maybe 2.5, 3 grand or whatever. Yeah. That is what we call a bad debt to an extent, even though it's not gone bad. And I'll explain in a minute what I mean. A good debt is I give you that 50 grand and you now see an opportunity in Leicester, in Birmingham, to buy a property near to a university or a hospital or whatever, that you could now turn into a buy-to-let, rent it out, and now that is bringing in an income to you more than what you're paying me for that 50k that I give you. It's still a debt, but it's what we call a good debt in the finance world because it's making you money. The other one is just costing you money.
It's just costing you money.
Yeah. That's how we view it when we look at debt. But in terms of what is classed as bad debt as well is where people can't afford to make that payment. So a bad debt would be now all of a sudden the 2 grand that you're paying for your BMW has become really expensive because maybe you lost your job, etc. And I come back and say, well, sorry, but I've got to take the car back. But you still have the debt.
You still have the debt
to pay. You still have to find 2 grand every month to pay me, but you haven't got the car anymore, etc., etc. Yeah. That is another element of what bad debt.
Bad debt. Okay. In terms of the good debt and the bad debt, I think I liked one thing in terms of generating more wealth. Generating more wealth. Especially for those who are upcoming homeowners, who are currently homeowners right now. There's this trend that I've seen, which is very funny, when they said you spent all of your life savings on placing down a deposit for the house, and the house is empty, and they were just asleep on a mattress on the floor, or there was just, you spent all the money on the house, but you don't have money for the furniture. Where there's some people say they furnish the house after a year, after 6 months. There is also this pressure, let's be honest, to say this pressure within the young generation, what I've noticed in terms of home ownership. Whereas I purchased this, I purchased that for this amount, for that amount. Whereas there's somebody that's watching us or listening to us right now, and they're still renting at the moment, and they're struggling in terms of saving for a deposit. How can they, what can we advise them in terms of saving for a deposit? And let's be realistic, because not everything is shared on social media. Where some people said I stopped having my favorite coffee, for example, to save for my new house. I stopped my gym membership and started walking. I stopped Netflix. Do we really have to go down that route to save for a house? Or is there any other way that we can do for a
There is
deposit?
other way, but it's interesting you mentioned that because, you know, renting to an extent is bad debt.
Yeah,
Investing in a house, even if it's you're going to sleep on the floor, it's good debt.
it's good debt.
And that's because more than likely, depending on where the house is, it's going to appreciate in value.
Yeah.
Yeah, because house prices are driven by demand and supply. Yeah, whereas if you're renting, that money is going into someone else's pocket. So it's not creating generational wealth
Yeah.
that we mentioned. You have a house, there's a good chance you would either pay it off before you die, before you retire, or you pass it on to a family member, and there is an asset in the family.
In the
Yeah.
family.
So back to the question you asked, what was it again?
In terms of maybe someone is feeling a bit pressured.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Small adjustments. Yeah, I know if you're not earning a lot and you have a lot of outgoings, the best way to do it, again, to find the money to save, and it comes back around to budgeting.
Budgeting.
Yeah. You will be surprised at how much we as human waste money without realizing it.
Wow.
You mentioned earlier a coffee every morning.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really know how much a Costa coffee costs. It's probably about what, £5 for,
A large, yeah.
you know, you buy one of that a day, you know, that's £25 a week if it's just one you buy every morning, you know. And when you look at that over a month, that's £100, £1,200 for the year.
Yeah.
Small things like that.
Small
You don't
things like that.
notice it,
Yeah.
you know. And chances are if you buy that coffee, you're probably buying a flapjack or something to go
Something
with
to
it.
go with it
Yeah.
to the side.
So it's just about sitting down and thinking, okay, if I went to a supermarket and I buy a nice flask
Yeah.
and I buy a big tin of coffee,
Tea and coffee, yeah.
it takes what, 2 minutes to make
Yeah.
coffee, and you walk with that every morning rather than stay and buy a Starbucks or a Costa, etc. Those are the little adjustments. You mentioned gym as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people go gym, they probably work out for half an hour and talk for the other half an hour,
That's true.
you know. Or they don't go every week, they're
don't go
paying every
every week.
month and
Yeah.
they're supposed to go every year and they don't go. Hey, if you're planning to save for a house, get in the habit of, instead of going gym, walk for an hour. Walk for half an hour around your neighborhood or whatever. Meet up with somebody, a family member or friend who live local or whatever. Set a time and you go walking 2-3 days a week. You will get the same effect by consistently walking every week
Yeah.
than going to the gym. And that £20 or whatever you're spending every month, or £30, you save that.
You save that.
So and then there's lots of other little things. If you used to have takeaway every Friday, all right, every other week, and then once a month, have it as a treat.
There you go. Treat yourself once a month.
Treat yourself once a month instead of every week. Because the thing is, because most people have takeaway on a Friday because they think, oh, it's a Friday, I've worked hard for the week, I can't be
Yeah.
bothered to cook, etc., etc. Again, if you plan your meals, you know what exactly what you're going to eat on Friday, and then you look forward to the end of the month when you're going, treat yourself.
And treat yourself. I like that. So treat yourself once a month, not every single Friday. I mean, you can still treat yourself by making something homemade at home, and especially with the coffee, where you can, buy your own coffee. I'm not a coffee person myself, but sometimes I've seen one thing I do like is hot chocolate. So I will literally buy my hot chocolate, buy my flask, or buy a froth machine or something that I can just make at home to just save me the extra coins, because outside is like what, £4, £5?
It will save you. It will save you because if you think of how much the percolator costs or how much the chocolate maker costs,
Yeah.
compared to what you would spend every day or for the whole year,
Yeah.
it save you a lot of money.
Save you a lot of money.
And before you know what happened, in 2 years, 3 years, you realize, wow, I've actually save.
I've saved.
I've accumulated that money.
Yeah.
And when you save, I would suggest have a separate bank account. I would even suggest having that bank account, that saving account, in another bank
In another bank.
than your main. Because if it's in your main everyday bank,
I'm tempted.
you are tempted because when you log on to your online bank and you see in all your account and you see, oh, crikey, you've got £10,000 in there, you're tempted to kind of
Dip in.
yeah. If it's a completely other bank, and I would even go as far as says maybe don't even have an app for it so you don't notice it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, if you're really dedicated to
Yeah.
saving, don't have an app for it. You can have like maybe online banking.
Yeah.
You will find it takes longer to log on to online banking than just click an app.
Yeah.
So therefore, you're not tempted every week to go and look at the balance, etc., etc. But every month you can go and check
You can go and check the account
to see, okay, yes, it's going up,
It's
etc.
going up, yeah.
But because it's separated from your everyday account, as I say, out of sight, out of mind, and it just builds up.
It just builds up.
Yeah.
I like this because I'm also receiving some knowledge as well, and I believe that our guests are also receiving some insight from this. And speaking of savings, wanted to touch upon emergency funds. I remember during the period where it was COVID-19 lockdown, everyone was at home. Some people were working, some people were not working, and some people struggled in terms of surviving every single day. And there was many supports that was given for businesses, for people to thrive and for people to continue. Some people did have emergency funds, some people didn't have emergency funds, and I believe from then on, from that specific crisis, it encouraged people in terms of setting up emergency funds and also to have an understanding in terms of how to deal with their finances. Maybe someone doesn't know what is an emergency fund. Can you please help our guests and just share with them the importance of having an emergency fund and how can they set up an emergency fund?
Okay. Right. It is very, very important to set up an emergency fund. What an emergency fund is, what everybody call a rainy day fund, as they say, and it's really putting aside some money on a regular basis in the event of something unexpected happening.
Okay.
So, for instance, what is suggested is if you have a mortgage, for instance, put aside 6 months mortgage payment in a savings as an emergency. So, if you were ill and couldn't work and you didn't have anything in place, and I'll touch on that in a second, you didn't have anything in place, then you have that to draw on. Because the thing is that even if you went to the bank, and a lot of people got caught out with it, and a lot of people who are looking at here will probably resonate with it. They went to the bank and say, okay, it's COVID, and the bank says, I'll give you a 6 months repayment holiday. A lot of people, it affected their credit score, their credit rating. And when the 6 month holiday is up and they try to do things, even a simple thing like go and buy a car, it showed up as a sort of a miss 6 months payment, even though the bank had agreed. So if you didn't have to depend on the bank and you couldn't work because of COVID or whatever, at least you have 6 months covered. Covered. So it is recommended minimum of 6 months to cover not just your mortgage but your outgoings. So if, for instance, your total outgoing in the month is £1,000, have 6 grand in savings for your rainy day fund.
On a rainy day fund. And can someone start from £5, £10 in terms of setting up an emergency fund?
Someone can start from anything they have. What I generally suggest to people is make an effort to save 10% of your monthly income, weekly income, fortnightly income every time. Yeah. We can actually, as humans, we can live on 60% of our income and actually put aside 40 for different things, for protection, for savings, for charity, etc., etc. So 60 or 70% we can easily live on if we make some small tweaks, some small adjustments. But the way the human mind works is that we spend what we have. Like, for instance, somebody might be earning 20 grand now, and they were comfortably spending on that 20 grand. Then all of a sudden they got a promotion at work and they're now earning 40 grand. And all of a
40 grand.
sudden their spending habit going up to the 40
That's
grand
increased,
limit.
yeah.
So now they're buying more expensive stuff. They're buying stuff more often. And before you know what happened, they still broke at 40. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
Whereas
makes sense.
logically they shouldn't, because if they were managing on 20, they should not be broke at
They should have
40.
been broke at 40.
But we raise our expenditure to our income.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's just about being disciplined. So I would suggest you're earning £1,000 every week, put aside £100
£100.
as savings, and you have the £900 there to live on. But even more, there is, even then, there are other things you can actually do to create generational wealth, as you say.
Generational
And
wealth.
to touch on the generational wealth,
Yeah, please do.
the easiest way to create generational wealth is by having a solid foundation based on protection. Yeah? That is having a couple insurance in place. Yeah? It's the easiest way. So for instance, if you have a family, your husband, a wife, you have kids involved, I would strongly recommend insurance policies. It could be a life insurance, critical illness insurance, you know, something of that sort. So let's say I'm the breadwinner, you know, something happened to me and we never know what happened. You could be walking out and like the hailstone make you slip and you fall and you knock your head.
Yeah.
You're in a coma. Worst case scenario, you die. If you're the breadwinner, all of a sudden there's hardship for your family.
Yeah.
If you had an insurance policy in place, if it's a life policy, it will pay out. If it's a critical illness, it will pay out.
It'll pay out.
So your family is there. And one of the good things about critical illness insurance, for instance, it can pay out. You can pay off your mortgage. You can make a recovery, because there's a lot of people who've recovered from stroke, from cancer, but it pays out when you had that illness. And then you can go back to work.
Okay.
So now you have a mortgage-free house because you paid it off with that.
Paid it off with that.
And the money you have now that you're working for now, what you were paying for mortgage, you can put that aside as savings. That's generational wealth.
That's generational wealth.
You know? So protection is mega, mega important. It's the bedrock, the foundation of building your generational wealth house.
I really like this because there's a certain taboo within the African community when it comes to life insurance. And some people believe like if you was to get a life insurance, that means you're trying to kill yourself off a bit early. But there's a certain thing that there's a misconception and a misunderstanding that I really like how you broke it down. And this can also help families as well in case, worst case scenario, we don't wish it on anyone. Whereas, you know, you would lose a precious family member and you wouldn't really need to be asking people for contributions, handouts, because we know that funerals are very expensive.
Yes.
Very, very expensive. So could you please re-emphasize this for our community, for our brothers and sisters to understand the importance of having insurance? We're not trying to kill you off.
Yeah.
You will live long, but this is just something that it's very important so you don't be, it's not a burden for your loved ones when you're not here.
And insurance doesn't mean, as I say, people are trying to kill you. What an insurance does, to me, an insurance shows that you care about the people around you.
Yeah.
It could be your mom, because if you're not married, you can still have an insurance and have your mom or your dad as the benefactor.
Yeah.
So if, God forbid, you die before them, they have something there.
Have something there.
If you have a family, your wife, the benefactor. If you have kids, your wife and kids.
Yeah.
So the smart, sensible, prudent person. And I'm saying that because like you rightly say, in our community, we see it as a negative rather than a positive.
We do.
But an insurance is actually a positive.
A positive.
Yeah. And therefore, by having it, and insurance are not as expensive as it used to be.
Okay.
And even now, you can have insurance even if you had a pre-existing condition.
Okay.
Because it's I think the insurance companies realize how important it is
Yeah.
to have that cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get covers from as low as £6,
£6 a month.
as high as £100.
Yeah.
It depends on the cover you want
Yeah.
and your age.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important as well as a young person to start your policy young.
You started
So
young.
even at uni,
Yeah.
you're going off to uni to study, your parents could set up a policy for you in your name, and then when you finish uni and you start working, you take over the payment of that policy.
Yeah.
But because you're young, you will get a policy, let's say for instance a £500,000 policy for maybe £20 a month. Somebody who's 30, 40, a £500,000 is going to be about £150 a month because of the risk element. But what you've done there as a young person or as a parent is actually be smart, be prudent. That's what you've done by having that insurance policy. So in the event of anything happening to you, death, but even worse than death is critical illness.
Critical illness, yeah.
Because then all of a sudden you might have a critical illness where you now have somebody having to look after you. You have a stroke, all of a sudden, if you are a young person or a single person, your parents have to maybe give up their job, your mom, so that she can care for you. So that's how income's gone. Dad's got to work 2 shifts now, you know, and that sort of thing. So if we think of it that way and how not having that foundation, that protection can affect the people around us, then I think the stigma of thinking, well, you're trying to kill me off would disappear. And it's just having a paradigm shift, change in your mind. It is actually the biggest source of generational wealth, having protection in place.
Wow, this is very important and very crucial. I hope that our guests are listening, who are watching us, to ensure that if you haven't yet got your insurance, please research and find good suppliers or good people that you can reach out to, because there are a few people who are scammers out there. You have to be very careful. So please make sure you have read as much more information as you can. Find a second opinion if you can from a professional. That would be really, really great. But to wrap it up, because we're now coming towards the end of our show, and I would really want to soak into much more of your knowledge, because I'm learning.
You can invite me back. It's okay.
We need you to come back for a part 2, because I'm learning so much as well. And I'm here, even though I'm asking questions, but in my head I'm thinking, okay, I shouldn't be doing this. I need to make sure I'm on point as well in terms of my finances. But in terms of investments, and there's another trend that is also trending in terms of social media, where people are into trading. Is that a good long-term investment? Is it risky? Maybe there's someone that's listening to us like, what is trading? Because there's various people, especially when we see on adverts on YouTube, and there's someone that will pop up and say, I have a workshop in terms of trading. I can help you earn an extra £10,000 per month. Do you want to quit your 9 to 5? Those type of adverts, and you're thinking, should I listen? Shouldn't I listen to? And what is trading, and is it a good investment?
Any investment, let me rephrase, most investments are good investments. Trading is a good investment, but like everything else, you have to be careful. There's certain rules with trading. One, you need to find a good platform, a good supplier to do the trading. But one of the things why investment doesn't work for a lot of people is greed. Humans are driven by greed. You know, and because they're driven by greed, that's all they see. They just see the chiching sign in front of them. Now, trading is good, and a lot of people are doing like FX trading. The key thing is educating yourself on how it works, how the matrix works. Right. To break it down simple, I can like you and say, okay, here's a car. If I don't teach you how to drive it properly, if it's a high-powered car, 100 meters down the road, you're going to crash.
It's going to crash.
Chances are, because you're not going to realize it's so fast. When you brake, it's going to skid. But if I teach you properly and say, hey, this car goes from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds or whatever. It's powerful. It's a rear wheel drive, which means when it's wet, if you brake too hard, it's skid. If I educate you on all of that, you'll be a lot more cautious
Yeah.
when it comes to driving that car, and you'll keep that car longer. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, if I say to you with that car, there's certain areas you can't go over 50 miles an hour, otherwise you'll get in trouble. I've educated you rather than you think it's a fast car, I'm going to just drive it.
Yeah.
Same thing with trading. When you're trading, it is mega, mega important that not only do you study
Yeah.
what you're doing to understand it, and there's a lot of stuff online and other people who think it, if you want to do it yourself, but also set yourself a daily limit.
Yes.
Yeah. So you might say to yourself, okay, I am going to invest just £100 today.
£100 a day.
When I make £500, I stop. So even if the trades are going up, when you get 500, come out the market.
Come out the market.
That's your limit for the day.
Okay.
Because trading is almost like being in a casino.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The house always wins. And the greedy people at casino end up losing their money because they're chasing the money. So the first couple hands, they might win you, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, and I think, yeah, I'm on a winning streak. And in their head, they said, if I win 500, I'll be happy. But because they won the 500 so easy, they think, let me go for 1,000. In going for that 1,000, they've lost 500. And all of a sudden, they think, oh, shucks, I've got to make back that 500. So they waste another 500. So they waste £1,000 chasing 500.
Chasing 500.
Same thing with trading. Yeah. If you don't, you got to, again, know what time you have to put into trading, because you have the Japanese market, the UK market, American, all different times. So you got to decide which one, you're going to wake up in the morning to maybe monitor the Japanese one, etc. if you're doing it yourself, etc.
Yeah.
But the key thing about trading, you can make money from it.
Yeah.
But you have to be disciplined in what you want to earn per day. Because, even if you earn £100 a day, that's £500 a week.
Yeah.
Consistently, you do that 4 weeks, that's £2,000 a month.
£2,000 a month. Yeah.
Rather than thinking, today's a brilliant day, let me make the £2,000 today.
All in one day.
No,
yeah.
Be disciplined.
Be disciplined. Be disciplined. Be disciplined.
And it would work for you.
And it will work for you. Be disciplined and it will work for you. Thank you so much, Grafton. In a few words, if there's anything that you can say to our guests, because we're going to wrap it up for today, in a few words, what can you say to them who are feeling a bit overwhelmed, a bit anxious in terms of their finances? What can we say to our lovely people?
Right. Hi again, people. Right. Here's an exercise for you who are feeling anxious and thinking, oh, yeah, it's all right, he's talking, but I hardly make any money. I've got lots of expenses. This is an exercise for you. Buy a small notebook, and every single thing you purchase, write it down. You buy a tub of chewing gum, write it down. Pack of cigarettes if you smoke, write it down. Your coffee every morning to work, write it down. And at the end of the week, you sit down, take half an hour, and look back at all the things you've bought and their cost, and ask yourself, did I really need this? Or could there have been an alternative? You'll be surprised at how much you actually spend because you've written it down and it's there in front of you, compared to what you could have not spent, could have saved. That will surprise you, and that's a brilliant exercise to start budgeting and saving.
Thank you very much, Grafton. I hope we have all heard the exercise that we have been advised to do. I am also going to do my bit as well when I get home, and I'm going to do this exercise, and I've already got my lovely notebook so I can write things down so I budget and also discipline myself. Discipline is key. Grafton, if someone wants to get in touch with you in terms of consulting for some advice or just any other inquiry, how can they reach out to you?
Well, you can contact me by my telephone number 07850 585 603, or I would have to, my email is a little bit long, So I suppose I can have to if you get in touch with me with the number, I can send you the email. But
Yeah.
I am also on Facebook. You can catch me on Facebook. Um, I am also on
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
and WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't got any of the other Instagram and TikTok and all of those, I'm afraid. I leave that for the young
You
people.
leave it for the
But
young
yeah,
people.
I mean, feel free to send me a message um, and just put your name, where you heard about me, so I could know it's not a spam call or anything like that. And then I'll be happy to sort of help you. I'm based in Luton. I live in Luton, based in Luton. So if you're living in Luton and you want to meet up for a coffee, brilliant. Or we can do a Teams or a Zoom call.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Grafton. Thank you so much for accepting our invite and being part of our show. We are looking forward to seeing you again for a part two, because I have indulged in so much knowledge and so much wisdom, and I'm sure that our guests who are listening and watching to us have also received so much knowledge as well. And thank you so
Been
much
a
for
pleasure.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining in to empower Luton and on behalf of Protect Project. And also, we are here at the AUK studios. And until next time, have a lovely, lovely week and take care.